Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the control room of the Deep Space Listening Array, staring at the screens with disbelief painted across her face. For 3 weeks, her team had been tracking something impossible. The data made no sense at first, just random patterns in the cosmic background noise. But now, after running the analysis 17 times, the truth was undeniable. The galaxy was talking, and Earth had never been invited to the conversation. "Run it again," Sarah said quietly. Her assistant, David Park, looked at her with tired eyes. They had been at this for 18 hours straight. "Sarah, we've checked everything. The patterns are real. Those are artificial signals, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. They're using frequencies we only just learned to detect." David pulled up another screen. "Look at this sector here. 17 different signal sources, all communicating in bursts. Then our probe gets within 10 light years and silence," Sarah finished. "Complete radio silence." She walked closer to the main display. The galaxy map showed their probe trajectories over the past 5 years. Everywhere humanity had sent eyes into deep space, the signal stopped. It was like watching lights turn off in a house when someone approached the windows. "They know we're here," David whispered. "They've always known." Sarah felt something cold settle in her chest. Earth had spent 200 years listening to the stars, hoping for any sign of intelligent life. The SETI programs, the radio telescopes, the deep space probes, all of it searching for just one signal that said humanity was not alone. And now they knew the truth. The silence was not because the galaxy was empty. The silence was because the galaxy was hiding from them. "Get me Director Morrison," Sarah said, "and then call the UN Stellar Council. They need to see this. All of it." The meeting 3 days later brought together representatives from every major nation on Earth. The UN Stellar Council had been formed 20 years earlier, when humanity achieved its first working faster-than-light drive. Now they sat in a secure chamber beneath Geneva, watching Sarah's presentation with growing horror. "They've been watching us," Sarah explained, pointing to the data streams. "For decades, maybe longer. Every time we send out a probe, they go quiet. Every time we scan a new sector, the communications cease. This is not random. This is coordinated." Admiral Marcus Webb leaned forward in his seat. He was a veteran of the Mars conflicts and now commanded Earth's small but growing defense fleet. His weathered face showed years of hard decisions. "You're saying they're afraid of us? Or disgusted by us?" said Ambassador Chen Li from the Chinese delegation. "We have to consider why they would hide. What have they seen?" The room fell silent. Everyone knew what humanity's history looked like from the outside. The wars, the nuclear weapons, the environmental destruction, the countless conflicts that had nearly destroyed their own world. Earth had only achieved true unity after the Mars conflicts almost tore the solar system apart. That was barely 30 years ago. "The broadcast problem," said Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the Council's chief sinologist. "We've been pumping radio and television signals into space for over 200 years. All our wars, our violence, our worst moments, broadcast to anyone listening. They've seen everything. So we're the scary ones," David said from the back of the room. "We're the monsters in the galactic neighborhood." Admiral Webb stood up slowly. "Then they've made a mistake. They've treated us like a threat without ever giving us a chance to prove otherwise. They've kept us isolated, alone, scared that we were the last intelligent life in the universe. That's not protection. That's a prison." "What are you suggesting, Admiral?" asked Secretary General Amara Okafor, who led the council. Webb looked around the room, his eyes hard. "I'm suggesting we stop asking for permission to exist. We know they're out there now. We know they've been hiding from us. So let's give them something they can't hide from." "You want to send a message?" Sarah said, understanding dawning on her face. "Not a plea. Not a request for contact. A warning." Webb pulled up a star chart. "We have quantum communication technology now. We can send a signal that will reach every corner of the galaxy simultaneously, a message they can't ignore. That could be seen as aggressive," Ambassador Chen Li warned. "We could start a war before we've even made first contact. They started this by treating us like criminals before we committed any crime," Webb replied. "But I'm not talking about threats of violence. I'm talking about stating facts. They've been watching us, fine. Now we're watching them, and we're done waiting for an invitation." The debate lasted for hours. Some argued for caution, for trying to send peaceful signals first. Others agreed with Webb that humanity needed to show strength, not weakness. Sarah listened to all of it, her mind racing through possibilities and consequences. Finally, Secretary General Okafor called for a vote. The room divided sharply, but in the end, Webb's proposal carried by a narrow margin. They would send the message. Sarah spent the next 2 weeks crafting it with a team of linguists, scientists, and diplomats. Every word was debated, every implication examined. It needed to be clear, direct, and impossible to misunderstand. It needed to show that humanity was not asking for permission anymore. The final version was simple and devastating. On a cold morning in Geneva, Sarah stood in the Quantum Communication Center, her hand hovering over the transmission button. The message was loaded and ready. It would reach every detectable civilization in the galaxy within seconds, carried on quantum-entangled particles that would appear simultaneously across space. Admiral Webb stood beside her. "Are you ready, Doctor?" Sarah thought about all those years of silence, all those decades of searching, hoping, wondering if humanity was truly alone, and now she knew the truth. They had never been alone. They had been abandoned, judged and found wanting before they ever had a chance to speak for themselves. "Yes," she said. "I'm ready." She pressed the button. The message went out instantly, flooding across the galaxy on frequencies that every technological civilization would be monitoring. Sarah imagined it arriving on 1,000 worlds in 1,000 different forms of consciousness, all reading the same words at the same moment. "We know you're there. We know you've been watching. We know why you've kept us in the dark. This is not a plea for contact. This is a warning we're coming. Humanity will take its place among the stars, with or without your permission. You have 1 Earth year to respond." The control room was silent after the transmission completed. No one spoke. They had just announced humanity's presence to the entire galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. There was no taking it back now. "What do you think they'll do?" David asked quietly. Sarah looked at the star chart surrounding them, at the thousands of points of light that now knew humanity existed and was no longer willing to hide. "I don't know," she admitted, "but we're about to find out if the galaxy is ready for us. And if they're not—" She glanced at Admiral Webb, who stood with his arms crossed, staring at the stars with determination in his eyes. "Then they should have thought about that before they left us in the dark." The message arrived during a regular session of the Galactic Consensus. Ambassador Krieth of the Valorian Empire was presenting a trade dispute resolution when every communication device in the chamber activated simultaneously. The quantum signal bypassed all security protocols, all filters, all attempts to block it. It simply appeared, forcing itself into every receiver, every screen, every neural interface, on 47 different worlds, in 47 different languages somehow perfectly translated. The human message played. The chamber erupted into chaos. Krieth's scales flushed deep purple with rage, a Valorian sign of extreme anger. "This is an act of war. They have breached our most secure communications." High Curator Zixel of the Luminar floated calmly in his containment sphere, his crystalline form refracting light in patterns that conveyed thoughtfulness to those who could read them. The Luminar were among the oldest species in the galaxy, having achieved spaceflight while humans were still living in caves. "Peace, Ambassador. They have sent words, not weapons. Let us consider what they are truly saying." "What they are saying is clear," hissed Vressa of the Kastari, her feathered crests raised in alarm. "They know. They know we have been monitoring them. They know about the quarantine." The consensus chamber fell into an uncomfortable silence. For 347 Earth years, they had maintained the quarantine protocol on humanity. Every species in the consensus had agreed to it after reviewing the evidence. The broadcasts from Earth showed a violent, aggressive species that had nearly destroyed itself multiple times with nuclear weapons. The wars, the genocides, the environmental destruction, all of it painted a clear picture. Humanity was dangerous, and dangerous species needed to be contained until they either destroyed themselves or evolved beyond their violent nature. "We should have expected this," said Coordinator Then of the Mix Collective, speaking through their hive-mind interface. "The humans have advanced faster than any species in recorded history. They achieved atomic power in less than 1,000 cycles. They reached their moon in less than 10,000. They have faster than light travel barely 500 cycles after splitting the atom. This speed is unprecedented." Zixil's light patterns shifted to indicate agreement. "Indeed, which is why we must be careful. A species that advances this quickly is either incredibly adaptive or incredibly reckless, perhaps both. They are threatening us, Krieth insisted, pulling up the human message on the central display. Look at these words. We're coming, with or without your permission. This is not the language of a peaceful species seeking friendship. This is the language of invaders. Or, Zixel countered gently, it is the language of a lonely species that has just discovered they have been deliberately isolated. Consider their perspective, Ambassador. They searched for us for centuries. They called out into the void hoping for any answer. And we gave them only silence. Vressa's feathers ruffled nervously because of the Vorlan protocols. We all remember what happened when we ignored the warnings last time. The chamber fell silent again. Every species present remembered the Vorlan catastrophe, even though it had happened nearly 800 years ago. The Vorlan had been a young, aggressive species, much like humanity. The consensus at the time had debated whether to make contact or maintain isolation. They chose contact, believing they could guide the Vorlan toward peace. They were wrong. Within 50 years, the Vorlan had stolen advanced technology, reverse-engineered weapons, and launched a campaign of conquest that killed billions across 17 star systems. It took the combined might of the entire consensus to stop them, and the cost had been devastating. Entire worlds were left burned and lifeless. 3 species had gone extinct. After that, the consensus had established strict protocols. Any species showing signs of excessive aggression would be quarantined until they proved themselves peaceful. Humanity had every sign that the Vorlan had shown. The violence, the weapons, the constant warfare. The protocols exist for a reason, said Ambassador Krieth quietly. How many billions must die before we learn the same lesson twice? But the humans have not attacked anyone, Zixel pointed out. They have only sent a message. A bold one, yes. Perhaps even a rude one by our standards. But they are not the Vorlan. We cannot judge them solely by their past. Their past is all we have to judge them by, Vressa argued, and that past is written in blood. Coordinator Then's hive mind pulsed with consideration. There is another factor to consider. The humans claim to have detected us. They claim to know we have been watching them. If this is true, they have technological capabilities we did not predict. They should not have been able to detect our monitoring for at least another 100 cycles, which makes them more dangerous, Krieth said. Or more ready, Zixel replied. Advanced enough that continued isolation may be impossible. If they can detect our communications, they can follow them. They will find us whether we invite them or not. The debate raged for hours. Some argued for immediate military intervention, for containing humanity before they could spread. Others called for caution, for study, for attempting dialogue. The consensus was built on agreement, but agreement seemed impossible. Finally, High Curator Zixel called for order. We must vote, but I propose we vote on 3 options, not 2. First, immediate military containment. Second, diplomatic first contact on our terms. Third, observation and delayed response. Delayed response? Krieth's scales flashed angry purple again. They gave us 1 Earth year. That is barely 800 cycles. Yes, Zixel agreed. But it is 800 cycles to prepare. To study them more carefully. To see if their message is backed by action or merely bravado. The votes were cast through the quantum network, each species registering their choice. The results came back divided almost evenly. Immediate military action received 14 votes. Diplomatic contact received 16 votes. Delayed observation received 17 votes. No consensus. For the first time in 300 years, the galactic consensus could not reach agreement. This is unprecedented, Coordinator Then observed. Without consensus, no action can be taken. Then we take no action, Vressa said nervously. We wait and see what the humans do. But not everyone agreed to wait. As the session ended and the representatives returned to their home worlds, small groups began forming in the shadows. Some believed humanity needed to be tested immediately. Others believed the consensus was moving too slowly, too cautiously. On a small station in neutral space, 3 ships met in secret. They represented species who had lost the most during the Vorlan catastrophe. Their decision was made quickly. We will test them, the Kastari commander said to her crew. We will see if they are warriors or if they are simply loud children who have stumbled into the stars. And if they are warriors? Her second officer asked. The commander's feathers flattened against her skull, a gesture of grim determination. Then we will know the consensus made a mistake voting for delay, and we will have the evidence to demand immediate action. The three ships engaged their faster-than-light drives and vanished into the void, heading toward the edge of human-controlled space. They were going to humanity's furthest colony, a small mining operation on a distant world. They were going to see what humans did when attacked without warning. Back on Earth, Admiral Webb stood in the Strategic Command Center watching the stars. 1 year. They had given the galaxy 1 year to respond. He wondered if that would be enough time. He wondered if the message had been too aggressive or not aggressive enough. But most of all, he wondered what was coming. Because something was coming. He could feel it in his bones, that old soldier's instinct that had kept him alive through the Mars conflicts. War was coming. The only question was whether humanity would be ready. Colony Commander Rachel Torres was reviewing the weekly mineral output reports when the alarm started screaming. The mining colony on Kepler 442b was small, only 3,000 people, but it was humanity's furthest outpost. Located 47 light-years from Earth, it represented the edge of human expansion into the galaxy. "Commander, we have multiple contacts." Lieutenant Chen's voice cracked with panic. 3 ships, unknown configuration, just dropped out of FTL 200,000 kilometers out. Rachel was moving before he finished speaking, racing from her office to the control center. "Raise shields. Power up weapons. Send distress signal to Earth immediately. Shields up. Weapons powering. Signal sent, but Commander, it'll take weeks for any help to arrive." Rachel knew that. They all knew that. The colony had 6 defensive railgun platforms and a small patrol ship, meant to deter pirates and handle asteroid defense. They were not prepared for a real military engagement. "Hail them. All frequencies," Rachel ordered, trying to keep her voice steady. Her heart was hammering in her chest. This was it. First contact. After all the waiting, after the message went out, someone had finally responded, but not with words. The alien ships opened fire without warning. Energy weapons, far more powerful than anything in humanity's arsenal, lanced through space. The first shot vaporized Defensive Platform 3. The second destroyed the patrol ship before it could even launch. "Return fire," Rachel screamed. "All platforms engage." The remaining railguns spat metal slugs at relativistic speeds. It was primitive technology compared to the enemy's energy weapons, but kinetic energy was kinetic energy. One shot struck an alien ship's shield and bounced off harmlessly. "Commander, their shields are too strong. Our weapons aren't penetrating." Another energy blast destroyed Platform 5. The colony's shield flickered under the assault. They had maybe 2 minutes before it failed completely. Rachel's mind raced. They couldn't fight these ships. They couldn't run. But she'd be damned if she just let them destroy the colony without making them pay a price. Get everyone to the emergency bunkers. Now. She pulled up the colony's systems, her fingers flying across the controls. "Chen, I need you to evacuate the control center." "Commander, what are you doing?" "Winning." Rachel's voice was cold. "By losing." The colony existed to process ore from the asteroid belt. Massive refineries turned raw materials into pure metals and rare earth elements. The main processor was the size of a skyscraper, filled with volatile chemicals and superheated materials. And it could move. It had engines to adjust its orbit for optimal mining positions. Rachel locked everyone else out of the control system and took manual command of the processor. On her screen, the alien ships were moving closer, probably to ensure they destroyed every structure. They were being thorough, professional. That was their mistake. "Come on," Rachel whispered, angling the processor toward the lead alien ship. Just a little closer. The colony shield failed. Energy blasts tore into the habitation domes. Atmosphere vented into space. Rachel ignored the damage alarms, focusing only on her trajectory calculations. The alien ships were 5 kilometers away now, almost in position. Rachel triggered every emergency release valve in the processor simultaneously. Superheated plasma vented from a dozen ports. Chemical tanks ruptured, mixing into a volatile soup. And then she fired the engines to maximum thrust. The massive structure accelerated toward the alien fleet like a bullet. A very large, very explosive bullet. The aliens tried to change course, but they were too close. The lead ship's shields flared as it attempted to blast the processor apart, but Rachel had angled it, so the intact portions shielded the critical systems. It kept coming. Impact. The explosion lit up the Kepler 442b system like a new sun. The processor's fusion core breached on contact, adding nuclear fire to the chemical inferno. The lead alien ship simply ceased to exist. The second ship, caught in the blast radius, tumbled away with half its hull sheared off. The third ship further back survived but was clearly damaged, its shields flickering and dying. Rachel, thrown against the wall by the explosion's shockwave even at this distance, pulled herself back to the controls. Her head was bleeding. The control center was on emergency power. Half the colony was gone, but so were the alien ships. 2 destroyed, 1 crippled. This is Commander Torres to all stations. Damage report. The responses came back slowly. 1,700 dead. The main habitation dome was destroyed. Life support was failing in sectors 3 and 7. But they were alive, and the remaining alien ship was retreating. Lieutenant Chen, are you reading this? Chen's voice came back shaky but determined. Yes, ma'am. The damaged ship is trying to jump to FTL, but their drive is malfunctioning. Rachel smiled grimly. Then let's go get it. Prep the mining tugs. We're going to capture ourselves an alien ship. The operation took 6 hours. The mining tugs, designed to haul asteroids, managed to latch onto the crippled alien vessel before it could escape. The crew inside had evacuated in escape pods, which the colonists also captured. When Admiral Webb's emergency response fleet arrived 3 weeks later, they found Rachel standing in the wreckage of her colony, covered in bandages, with an alien ship in tow and 12 alien prisoners in custody. Webb walked through the ruins, seeing the bodies being recovered, the destroyed structures, the scarred landscape. Then he looked at the captured ship and the prisoners. Commander Torres, he said quietly, what happened here? Rachel's voice was steady despite the exhaustion in her eyes. First contact, sir. They came without warning, no communication, and opened fire immediately. We defended ourselves. Webb looked at the battle data his team had compiled. 3 alien ships, all with technology superior to humanity's. 2 destroyed, 1 captured, against 6 defensive platforms and a colony with no military vessels. How? He asked simply. We used what we had, sir. They expected military resistance. We gave them industrial resistance instead. Rachel gestured to the wreckage of the processor. Sometimes the best weapon isn't the one designed for fighting. Dr. Sarah Chen, who had accompanied the fleet, was already examining the captured vessel with her team. She emerged after several hours, her face pale with excitement. Admiral, this is incredible. Their technology is decades ahead of ours in some ways, but behind in others. Their energy shields are amazing, but their hull materials are actually weaker than our composites. They rely completely on their shields, which is why the kinetic impact worked, Webb realized. The processor punched through their shields through sheer mass, and the shields couldn't protect against the explosion from inside. Sarah nodded. And sir, their navigation systems are intact. We have their star charts. We know where they came from. We know where other civilizations are located. Webb stood silent for a long moment, processing the implications. Humanity had been attacked. 1,700 people were dead. But they had won. Not only won, but captured enemy technology and intelligence. What about the prisoners? He asked. Rachel gestured to the holding area. They're called Kistari. Feathered, bipedal, surprisingly humanoid. They're terrified, sir. They thought we were primitives. When we captured them, they kept saying we shouldn't have been able to do what we did. Webb went to see the prisoners. The Kistari commander, her feathers drooping in defeat, looked up at him with eyes that showed genuine fear. Why did you attack us? Webb asked through the translation system Sarah had already created. The Kistari was silent for a moment. Then, we wanted to test you, to see if you were truly dangerous or merely making empty threats. And what is your conclusion? Webb's voice was cold. You are more dangerous than we imagined, the alien admitted. Not because of your weapons, because of your minds. You should not have won. You should not have captured us. But you did. Webb left the holding area and gathered his command staff. This changes everything. They tested us and we passed. But this was just a small group acting on their own. When the rest of the galaxy hears about this, they'll have to respond. War? Rachel asked quietly. Maybe, Webb admitted. But we have something now we didn't have before. We have their technology to study. We have proof that we can defend ourselves. And we have evidence that they struck first. Sarah was looking at the star charts. Admiral, according to this data, there are 47 civilizations in the local cluster. And we're right on the edge of their space. If we wanted to, we could reach their central worlds within months. Then that's what we do, Webb decided. We don't wait for them to come to us again. We take the fight to them. Not to attack, but to make them listen. He looked at the ruins of the colony, at the bodies being recovered, at the survivors working to rebuild. They wanted to know if humanity was dangerous. Let's show them the answer, not because we seek war, but because we refuse to be victims. The fleet departed Kepler 442b with the captured alien ship in tow, heading not back to Earth, but deeper into the galaxy, toward the very heart of the civilization that had attacked them. Humanity was done hiding. Humanity was done waiting. Just like the message said, they were coming. The news of the Kepler 442b incident spread through the galactic consensus like wildfire. Within days, every civilization knew that humans had destroyed 2 advanced warships and captured a third using nothing but a mining facility and determination. The consensus chamber was in chaos. This is exactly what we feared. Ambassador Krieth roared, his scales flashing angry purple. They are violent. They are dangerous. We must mobilize immediately and contain them before they spread. They defended themselves against an illegal attack, High Curator Zixel countered, his crystalline form glowing with patterns of frustration. An attack that was not authorized by this body. The Kastari faction acted alone in direct violation of our protocols. Coordinator Then's hive mind pulsed rapidly. The tactical analysis is disturbing. The humans used unconventional methods we never predicted. They sacrificed infrastructure as weapons. They demonstrated adaptability beyond any models we constructed. Vressa, the Kastari representative, sat with her feathers pressed flat against her body in shame. My people acted foolishly, but their fears were not unfounded. The humans demonstrated exactly the kind of dangerous ingenuity we worried about. They demonstrated survival instinct, Zixil corrected. There is a difference between aggression and self-defense. The debate had been raging for 3 days. Half the consensus wanted immediate military action. The other half wanted to attempt diplomatic contact. But the paralysis of indecision was creating a dangerous vacuum. And into that vacuum, humanity was moving. Admiral Webb's fleet had been traveling for 6 weeks, using the captured alien star charts. They had bypassed border systems and defensive positions, using routes that the aliens thought were secret. Now they were approaching Valorian Prime, the heart of the galactic consensus itself. Are you certain about this, Admiral? Sarah Chen asked from her position on the bridge. She had been working non-stop with the engineering teams, reverse engineering the alien technology. In 6 weeks, they had learned more about advanced physics than humanity had discovered in the previous century. No, Webb admitted, but waiting for them to attack us again isn't an option. We need to force their hand, make them talk to us instead of about us. The fleet consisted of 12 human ships, including the captured Kastari vessel flying under human control. Not an invasion force. Not enough to threaten a civilization that spanned 47 worlds. Just enough to make a statement. Jump complete in 3, 2, 1. The fleet emerged from FTL directly over Valorian Prime. Alarms immediately sounded across the planet. Defense stations powered up. Warships began launching from orbital platforms. Open a channel, Webb ordered. All frequencies. I want everyone to hear this. The communication systems activated, broadcasting across every available frequency. Webb's image appeared on screens across the consensus capital world. This is Admiral Marcus Webb of the Human Defense Fleet. We come not as invaders, but as equals who refuse to be ignored any longer. 6 weeks ago, your people attacked our colony without warning or provocation, killing 1,700 civilians. We defended ourselves, we won, and now we are here to deliver a simple message. If you want to know what humanity is capable of, you should have asked us instead of attacking us. The bridge was silent as they waited for a response. Sarah watched the sensors as dozens of alien warships surrounded them. They were outgunned by at least 50 to 1. If the aliens opened fire, the human fleet would be destroyed in minutes. But they didn't fire. Instead, after a long, tense moment, a response came through. This is Coordinator Then of the Galactic Consensus. Your presence here is unexpected. How did you find this location? Your people were kind enough to provide navigation data when we captured their ship, Webb replied calmly. We've had 6 weeks to study your technology. You might be surprised what we've learned. Another pause. Then a different voice, older and calmer. "This is High Curator Zixel. Admiral Webb, what you have done is extraordinarily dangerous. You are in the heart of our civilization with a military force. Many here will interpret this as an act of war." "Then they would be wrong," Webb said. "We came here unarmed." He gestured to his tactical officer who transmitted data to the consensus. "Our weapons are powered down. Our shields are at minimum. We are not here to fight. We are here to talk. Something you should have allowed 300 years ago when you started watching." "Yes." Sarah could see the alien response patterns changing on her. Sensors, confusion, uncertainty, fear. The humans had done something no one predicted. They had walked into the heart of enemy territory and declared themselves harmless. It was either brilliant or insane. "Possibly both. You want to talk?" Zixel's voice carried surprise. "You travel across the galaxy with warships to ask for conversation?" "We tried sending a message," Webb replied. "You responded by testing us with military force. So we're here to ensure you understand that we're serious. Humanity will not be isolated. We will not be ignored, and we will not be attacked without consequences. But we would prefer peace to war. If you're willing to actually listen." The communication cut off. Sarah knew the consensus was debating internally, probably frantically. Finally, after 10 tense minutes, Zixel's voice returned. "The consensus has agreed to grant you an audience. You and a small delegation will be allowed to land on Valorian Prime under a flag of truce. But Admiral, understand that you are taking an enormous risk. Many here want you dead." "Understood," Webb said. "We'll take that risk. Because talking is always better than shooting." 3 hours later, Webb stood in the consensus chamber with Sarah Chen and Commander Torres by his side. The chamber was massive, designed to accommodate dozens of different species, each with their own environmental requirements. Some floated in containment spheres. Others stood on various gravity platforms. The diversity was staggering, but the hostility was universal. Every alien eye, crystal sensor, or other sensory organ was focused on the three humans with suspicion and fear. Coordinator Then spoke first through their hive mind interface. "Humans, you stand before the galactic consensus. Explain yourselves." Webb stepped forward. "We stand here because you gave us no choice. For over 300 years you watched us. You judged us. You decided we were too dangerous to contact based on our worst moments, but you never gave us a chance to show our best moments. Your worst moments killed billions of your own people," Ambassador Krieth snarled. "Your wars, your weapons, your destruction are in our past," Webb interrupted. "Yes, we were violent. Yes, we nearly destroyed ourselves. But we didn't. We survived. We learned. We unified. And we became something better than we were. But you never saw that because you stopped watching when it suited your fears." Fressa's feathers rippled nervously. "You don't understand. We have seen this before. The Vorlon, but we are not the Vorlon," Sarah said firmly. "We are humanity. Judge us by our own actions, not by your trauma from another species." The chamber erupted in angry chatter. Zixel had to pulse bright light patterns to restore order. "Humans, you speak boldly for a species that destroyed 2 of our ships." "In self-defense," Torres said, speaking for the first time. Her voice carried the weight of someone who had seen her colony burn. "Your people attacked us without warning, without even attempting communication. You want to judge humanity by our violent past? Then look at what you just did. You attacked first, not us." The chamber fell silent at that. Sarah pressed the advantage. "You created something called the Vorlon Protocols, rules to prevent another catastrophe. But those protocols are based on fear, not wisdom. You see violence in a species' past and you assume they cannot change. But change is what intelligent life does. We changed, and you never gave us credit for it. How can we trust that you have changed?" Coordinator Then asked. "You came here with warships." "Warships with weapons powered down," Webb pointed out. "We came to your capital world, surrounded by your fleets, and declared ourselves peaceful. If we were the monsters you feared, we would have attacked. But we didn't. We asked to talk." Zixel floated forward in his containment sphere. "I have reviewed your history carefully since the Kepler incident. Humans, your species fascinates and terrifies in equal measure. You advance faster than any species on record. You adapt to any challenge. You refuse to accept defeat even when it is logical. These traits make you either the galaxy's greatest hope or its greatest threat." "Then let us prove which one we are," Sarah said. "Give us a chance. Real contact. Real diplomacy. Let us show you what humanity can be when we're not fighting for survival." The debate that followed lasted hours. Species after species stood to speak, some in favor of giving humanity a chance, others demanding immediate military action. Webb, Sarah, and Torres stood through all of it, listening to aliens discuss humanity's fate like it was an academic problem to be solved. Finally, Zixil called for order one last time. The consensus is divided. We cannot agree on whether humanity represents danger or opportunity. Therefore, I propose a compromise. We will grant humanity provisional membership in the consensus. You will be allowed to establish embassies, engage in trade, and participate in our society. But you will be monitored closely. Any sign of Vorlon-like aggression will result in immediate military action. Additionally, we propose that humanity serve a unique role. You will become our bridge builders to other isolated, as the warning came from the most unexpected source. Dr. Kalar, a young Luminar scientist who had been fascinated by humanity's rapid advancement, discovered the plan by accident while reviewing stellar monitoring data, a massive energy signature moving through space toward Sol, a signature that matched classified weapons research from 800 years ago, a stellar collapse device. A weapon designed to destabilize a star and cause it to go supernova. Kalar barely took time to gather the evidence before racing to High Curator Zixil's sanctuary. The ancient Luminar listened to the breathless explanation, his crystalline form darkening with horror. How long? Zixil asked. 72 hours until it reaches effective range of Sol, Kalar said. After that, maybe minutes before detonation. And the human fleet? Still 6 days away at maximum faster than light speed. They cannot possibly reach Earth in time. Zixil made a decision that would have been unthinkable a month ago. Contact Admiral Webb immediately. Then prepare every consensus ship within range. We will help them. Because if we let Earth die after granting them membership, we will prove ourselves to be exactly what they feared, cowards and liars. On the bridge of the human flagship, Admiral Webb received the transmission from Kalar with growing cold fury. Behind him, Sarah Chen pulled up the navigation data, her face going pale. 6 days minimum, she confirmed. Even if we push the FTL drives to maximum, we can't make it in time. Then we'll have to do the impossible, Webb said quietly. Again, he pulled up the entire human fleet. 12 ships, all that humanity had in deep space. This is Admiral Webb to all vessels. I'm transmitting emergency data now. There's a weapon heading for Earth that will destroy our sun and kill everyone we've ever known. We have 72 hours to get there, and our current drives say it takes 6 days. So we're going to do something that's never been done. We're going to chain FTL jumps without cooldown. The communication channels erupted with protests. Sir, that's impossible, said Captain Park of the destroyer Valiant. The drives will tear themselves apart. The ships can't handle that kind of stress. They'll have to, Webb said, because the alternative is Earth dies. I'm not ordering anyone to do this. I'm asking for volunteers. Anyone who doesn't want to risk it can head for the nearest station. There was a long silence. Then Captain Park's voice came back. Valiant is with you, Admiral. One by one, every ship in the fleet confirmed. They were all going home. They were all taking the risk. Sarah was already working with the engineering teams across the fleet. If we're going to do this, we need to modify the FTL drives on the fly. Reinforce the containment fields. Reroute power from weapons and life support. Strip everything that isn't essential. Will it work? Webb asked. I don't know, Sarah admitted. The calculations say there's a 60% chance the ships will survive the first jump. 40% for the second. By the third jump, we're down to 10% survival rate. Then we better make sure we can do it in 3 jumps, Webb said grimly. The modifications took 8 precious hours. 8 hours they didn't have. But when they were done, the human ships looked like they'd been through a war. Armor plates removed to reduce mass. Weapon systems stripped for parts. Life support reduced to bare minimum. Everything sacrificed for one goal, speed. All ships report ready, Commander Torres announced. She had insisted on coming despite her injuries from Kepler 442b. Drive cores are charged. Containment fields reinforced. Engineering teams are standing by for emergency repairs. Webb looked at the countdown. 64 hours remaining. Execute jump sequence 1. All ships on my mark. 3, 2, 1, jump. The universe twisted. The ships hurled themselves into faster-than-light space with all safeties disabled. Normally, FTL required a careful balance of exotic matter and energy fields. Push too hard and the ship would rip itself apart. The safety systems were designed to prevent that. Webb had ordered those systems disabled. The first jump was brutal. On the Valiant, Captain Park watched her drive core temperature spike into the red zone. Coolant systems screamed warnings, but she held it together. Valiant reporting. Drive holding. Hull integrity at 87%. Across the fleet, damage reports came in. 2 ships had hull breaches. 1 had lost primary power. But they were all still flying. No cooldown, Webb ordered. Immediate jump 2 on my mark. Admiral, the drives need at least 6 hours to cool. An engineer protested. We don't have 6 hours. Mark, the second jump was worse. The destroyer Courage suffered a catastrophic drive failure mid-jump and fell out of FTL space. Another ship, the frigate Resolution, reported that her containment field was failing. Resolution, this is Webb. Can you make one more jump? Captain Lee's voice came back steady despite the chaos on her ship. One more, sir, maybe. After that, we're dead in space. Then make it count. Jump 3 in 10 seconds. This is for Earth. The third and final jump was hell. The ships that remained pushed their drives far beyond any reasonable limit. Metal screamed. Energy fields fluctuated wildly. On the flagship's bridge, Sarah watched the containment reading spike and fall, dancing on the edge of total failure. And then they emerged into normal space. The Sol system, home. Damage report, Webb barked. Torres read the data through gritted teeth. 8 ships made it. 4 had to drop out. Multiple hull breaches. The flagship's drive is at 15% capacity. But Admiral, we're here, 33 hours before the weapon arrives. And we have company, Sarah added, pointing to her sensors. Ships were emerging from FTL all around them. Alien ships. Dozens of them. Ships from the Galactic Consensus led by High Curator Zixel himself. This is Zixel to Admiral Webb. We received word of the weapon. The hardliners acted without authority. We have brought every ship we could gather. Tell us how we can help. Webb felt something unexpected, hope. High Curator, welcome to Earth. We need your advanced sensors to locate the weapon precisely, and then we need to figure out how to stop it. The combined human and alien fleet worked together frantically. The weapon was located within hours, approaching from the outer system. It was massive, ancient, and heavily shielded. Direct weapons fire would likely trigger it early. Sarah worked with Kalar and a team of Luminar scientists, examining the weapon's design. It's designed to trigger a cascade in the star's core, but it needs to get within a specific range to work. If we can disrupt its navigation or push it off course, it has redundant systems, Kalar noted. Very redundant. The original designers wanted to ensure nothing could stop it once deployed. Then we don't stop it, Sarah said suddenly. We redirect it. Change its trajectory just enough that it misses the effective range. How? Kalar asked. Sarah smiled grimly. The same way we won at Kepler. We use mass and momentum. We push it. The plan was insane. Every ship, human and alien, would position itself to use tractor beams and physical contact to alter the weapon's course. It required precision timing and coordination. One mistake and the weapon would detonate early, killing everyone. They had 3 hours to pull it off. Webb coordinated the fleet like a symphony conductor. Human ships took positions on one side, alien ships on the other. The captured Kasthari vessel, still flying under human control, took point position. All ships activate tractor beams on my mark. We need to change its course by 0.03 degrees. That's all. Just enough to miss effective range. The countdown reached 0. Tractor beams locked on. Ships fired positioning thrusters. The weapon, massive and ancient, slowly began to shift course, but it wasn't enough. The weapon had inertia from its long journey. The course change was too slow. We need more force, Torres reported. We're only getting 0.01 degree change. We need triple that. Webb made a decision. All ships prepare for direct contact. We're going to push it. Sir, physical contact might trigger the weapon, Sarah warned. So will letting it reach effective range. All ships on my mark engage engines and make contact. The human ships moved first, their hulls making contact with the massive weapon. Then the alien ships joined them. Dozens of vessels from dozens of worlds pushing together against an ancient weapon designed to kill billions. The weapon's course began to change more rapidly. 0.02 degrees, 0.025, 0.028. 10 seconds to effective range, Torres called out.
Still not enough.
Zixel's voice came over the communication net. All Luminar vessels transfer all power to engines, everything. Life support, shields, weapons, everything. That will kill your crews, Webb protested. We have environmental suits. The weapon will kill billions. Push harder. The Luminar ships flared with power as they diverted every bit of energy into their engines. The weapon's trajectory shifted. 0.029, 0.030. Effective range in 3, 2, 1. The weapon passed through the trigger point, but it was off course by exactly 0.03 degrees. Too far to trigger the stellar collapse. The ancient device, failing to detect the proper stellar resonance, simply continued on its path, eventually to drift into interstellar space. The combined fleet erupted in cheers. Humans and aliens, species that had never met before this crisis, celebrating together. Webb slumped in his command chair, exhausted. They had made it. Earth was safe.